What's up, guys? I'm going to show you guys how to make a massive supersaw. I've done supersaws before in Silent, but making them in massive is no different than making them in Silent. So I will show you guys how to do that now, and I'll give a little quick tip on something I do sometimes when I'm sound designing. Sometimes when I'm sound designing, like I'll find something I like in Silent, but I want to make I want to take the same MIDI notes and all that stuff, and I want to apply it to another channel. So I'll just copy this channel with Command D by selecting that, and now I have a duplicate of that channel. And what I'll do with that channel is, like, I want to keep all the MIDI information, but I want to change the synthesizer or whatever. So I'll just click on this little recycle button, click on a massive, and that's swapped out massive for me. What the fuck? Okay, I didn't mean to click on that. And so now I start off with a basic sound, but I have the same MIDI notes. Okay, so now I'll just go here and I'll go to new sound. And making supersaws is really easy. There's really only 3 things to making a big, nice supersaw. So it's pretty much just layering saw waves, or occasionally a square wave in between, or a triangle wave, just a different type of wave to fill in some gaps. 2 is just filtering, and 3 is just like if winding it up with delay and reverb. That's really all a supersaw is, and really has been for a while in this genre of music. So I'm just gonna select a square saw 2, and I'm gonna have it on both of these. So I'll bring these down an octave both. So let's see. And for my third oscillator, I'll just leave it on square saw 1, and make sure these are all cranked up to saw. So this is the saw side and this is the square side. So I want this to be my higher oscillator, or in higher octave. And if you guys are wondering how I'm moving between these octaves, I'm just holding on Option, which might be Alt on PC. So you can move up and down through octaves really quickly like that. So let's see. And that's pretty much it. Maybe bring this up a bit. So my intensity and wavetable positions are all, and my amps are all the way to the right, except for this amp right here that's a little bit down from all the way up. And the filter is positions are in the middle of filter 1 and 2. So that's really it. That's the basic supersaw synthesis that you can do in any synthesizer that has saw waves. And just like how I do in Silent, I usually always bring my voicing up first, but because I'm doing this in a tutorial, I just went over the saws, the oscillators first. But you always want to bring up the voicing up all the way with the saw sound, so you get the most notes played replicated accurately. So this is going to be loud, so you might want to turn down your master first. So you can hear that on one voice it's very thin and whatever, and on 16 voices it definitely sounds more full and whatever. And in voicing, so voicing is really the first thing I would do if I'm making a supersaw in massive. So I would go voicing, turn this up, and then figure out how I want my oscillators to be. And like I said, if you want to add in a square to, so now I'm turning this from saw to square. It's sort of filling in the gaps between the saws, but it's not a very good saw square sound. So I'll go to smooth square and bring this up all the way. So you can hear that kind of saw square super saw sound. But I'm gonna go back to what it was. Okay, and of course you can play with pan position, so this will make it much wider. you can invert that or have it on full or whatever. So this is a cool sound, but I'm gonna leave mine on mono. And you can play with pitch cutoff, so just drag it slightly, just barely move it so it doesn't, so it pretty much looks like it's in the same spot but slightly moved to the right. So it's hard to see visually, but I think I must have moved it just barely a little bit to the right, so do that one by ear. Can't really show you where it is, but it is moved slightly. And so when I'm doing these Supersaw sounds in massive, usually I do voicing, oscillators, and next thing I move on to is my filters. So I'll make sure that all the filters are cranked up, leave the mix between them, and usually I go for like a low pass. This will be my conservative filter, and then on my bottom filter I can do whatever I want. So usually I'll open this up all the way and close this down, or bring the reso down, and it just sort of rounds the sound out a bit, so I like doing that. And now for filter 2, I can do whatever I want. I could get really crazy with this. Maybe I'll try band reject. So I just went with the low pass too. So I kind of like how that sounds in combination with another low pass. So what's happening is these oscillators are evenly going into these two filters that are very much the same, but different enough to the point where when all of that is combined, it makes a kind of unique sound. So they're all going through each filter, and it's being summed up here, right here in the mix, and it sounds kind of cool. So at this point, now that I'm done with my filters, I might play around with the release. So I might bring it down, maybe bring this decay up, and maybe sharpen the attack or push it back a little bit. Okay, and that's really what I do. That's basically the most basic form of a supersaw, just the oscillators and a little bit of filtering and a little bit of voicing, and that's really it. That's what a supersaw is essentially. Now so that pretty much covers two of the things I was saying that makes a supersaw. Your oscillators being saw waves, and or maybe a combination with a square wave, a little bit of filtering, and for the last thing, probably what makes it really important to producers to add into their songs is just winding it up with delay and reverb. So this is probably the most important part, but not really. So I'm just gonna go with the delay synced, and I'm just gonna leave all this stuff where it's at. I'm gonna listen to it and adjust the parameters. So that's kind of what I ended up with, and I like it. So it already makes the Supersaw sound a lot wider. And of course, let me turn this off real quick. Like I was saying earlier, you can go voicing and make it much wider by inverting it to full or just all the way over here. And in combination with the delay. But the reason why I don't like doing that on a Supersaw is because I like the saw wave or the oscillators and filters just to be mono. Like so, right now what you're hearing is very in the center of the speakers, so it sounds like it's playing right from in front of you. And the point of the effects, especially a delay, is to delay one side from the other, but they're both the left and the right are delaying at the same time, but the effects are out further in the stereo field or the stereo image, so these effects are wider than the sound itself. So the basic filtering and all that is very mono, and the effects add the wideness. So if I turn this on and my supersaw my saw waves are now very wide themselves, adding a delay to that, it's not going to make it sound more wide. It's just going to make it sort of clash. So that's why I turn off pan position sometimes when I'm making supersaws and massive. And next, probably just the reverb to top it all off. So I could just play around with that. And I'm not gonna think too much about it. I'm just gonna quickly adjust it and kind of let my ears find a nice spot for these parameters. So that's kind of what I ended up with. So if you guys need to pause that to get that, or I prefer that you guys do it to your own taste, so that way it's more your own and how you guys like things to sound. And I guess for EQ, I would kind of just listen to it and adjust it as I'm listening. So So as you can see, with just a little bit of FX and EQ, it really made the sound much bigger and wider, and that's probably the format of which you're used to hearing a Supersaw. So without all that stuff, this is what you guys should start out with, and then from there, with maybe external delays and better reverbs outside of massive, so you can turn these off and use much better reverbs and delays. Like stock plugins are even a little bit better than these, but they're nice. I like the sound of these also. So with all that on, there you go. So that's basically how I go about making Supersaws, but I do it differently every time. So I could save this preset, but I'm not going to, because sometimes when I'm sound designing, I like to try different things. So for example, like I showed you guys earlier, I could add in a square, a smooth square. I could do that, or I could make a, there's a bunch of things you could do. You could add inserts, but I really don't find that inserts are too flattering to a Supersaw. You could add noise, you could do that. Hey, you could even go into the modulation area, so let me play around with that for a bit. So as you can see, it didn't do too much. It didn't make too big of a difference, but you get the point. You can play around with all that stuff. So I pretty much covered everything that I think I could cover. So that's basically how you make a Supersaw in Massive. Really play around with this, you guys. Make a lot of copies of your Supersaws, and then just make a new sound. Just have an extra channel to completely allow yourself to mess up and to experiment. And that's what I did really with this whole track right here, or this channel right here. It's basically a copy from a silent patch, and I just copied it over and allowed myself to experiment and create something new. And of course you can play around with all that stuff. So that's pretty much it, guys. So thanks for watching. Like and subscribe helps me a lot, and lets me know you guys are liking what I'm doing. And you guys can always suggest anything to me, like if you guys want me to do something specifically differently or go more into whatever, just to help me improve the quality of my videos, because I am sort of a new channel. I've only been on YouTube for like a month and a week, so I'm a new YouTuber, but I want to be around for the long time. And send me requests. I can also listen to songs that you guys send me and evaluate that also. I mean, you guys feel free to ask me anything. So in my inbox, you can leave a message and I'm happy to answer anything you guys want. So thanks, guys.